boy, is there so much light behind me? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
All
That's
right.
good. Okay, we're live.
It's true. Carrie always tells me I'm alive. When I was wondering if I was alive, and then Carrie told me we're live, Facebook Live. It means you're alive. Okay, so today we're discussing because the sun is in Cancer and the moon is in Pisces, and the last 2 days, today and yesterday, and I think it's part of Wednesday, you should be feeling a little bit internal, less verbal, and a little bit shy. Well, what kind of crazy day is that for July 4th? I think by the end of July 4th, it turns into Moon in Aries, which it'll be popping out. But yeah, Malika, I'm glad you're here. And the story is it's time to go in and notice the feeling. It's such a funny thing how the moon changes and the moods change and they affect all of us. But when you're born under the influence of water, heavy water, or lots of earth, there is this quality we call shy, which in my language has to do with soulfulness. People that are soulful don't need to express themselves, externalize themselves so much unless there's a function. They're more receptive and yielded and feminine. So the male energy is the outgoing energy that wants to be talking and wants to be showing off. It wants to be getting attention. And the female energy is much more of the internal, calm and quiet and gentle. So I'm thinking about the different people that I know that I consider shy and why do I love them? The people that are shy in astrology, it indicates one, this personality type. Two, it can be, especially when you're a kid, how many of you out there as a kid didn't want to talk? It's someone who has an internal world that is very rich, that requires simplicity to be feeling comfort. But when complexity happens and stimulation happens, they get uncomfortable. And that's simply my system, in my belief system. Shy is equivalent to soulful. Not always, sometimes shy is shut down and it's contracted. And this particular moon configuration today is a time of meditation. It's a time to give yourself permission to be vulnerable. What is quiet? It's introspection. What is shyness? Less of an appetite to need attention. If all you shy people out there that are watching this had guilt-free cards, this is what the class does, what our school is all about. In your pocket, you carry a guilt-free card, and the guilt-free card says get out of jail, better known as don't have to even see people. It should be keeping you in jail. The guilt-free card says stay in jail, no excuses. You're allowed to feel good about yourself. So the internal personality type has less need. Therefore, they are more receptive. And here's the high road of shy people. They resource or they inform themselves with wisdom because the quieter you are and the more you're feeling and the more you're listening and the more you're in your depth, the more that you realize there's something to be said that has some meaning. So I always pay attention in the room. Who's the quiet one? And I go snuggle up to them, the shy one. And I go, wow, you don't like parties, do you? And they go, no. And then we proceed to have a very deep one-on-one conversation. So the indication of shyness or withdrawal or introversion is someone that wants to go deep or wants to have a very personal connection that doesn't require stimulation or too much noise or too much feedback. They just want to be able to do a deep into your eyes intimacy conversation. So if you have a child who's shy, the best thing you can do is touch them. The big clue about shy people is they need touch. They won't ask for it because, they're shy. They're playing the game called don't look at me. But what they really want is a hug, or they want to sit next to you, or they want to make eye contact with you. So if you're the personality type who's the outgoing one, said Debra Silverman, who presents like an extrovert, but secretly don't tell anyone, I'm an introvert. I would much rather listen to somebody than tell my story. Now, it doesn't mean I can't tell my story. So I have extroversion tendencies, which is fire and air. And I source as a south node or a north node in Scorpio I have, and sun in the 8th house and Neptune in Scorpio on my ascendant. I source from an inner world that allows me to listen to you without my internal dialogue. When a shy person has less noise now, it wouldn't be said, because the thing is, the one indication of shyness, or I would say rather aloneness, there's a difference between being shy and liking to be alone. because Virgo is a sign that loves to be alone, because when they're with people, they talk so much, they're obligated to be of service. But what they long for is the quiet. So, all of you listening to this that are on Facebook Live, if one, you were shy as a child, that could be the indication of an old soul who is receptive and yielded and open as compared to a new soul who is curious and outgoing and rambunctious. How do you spell rambunctious? Rambunctious. If you were a child and as you grew older, you became verbal, that simply suggests that as a child, perhaps it was past lives where you just finished some trauma and you came into this lifetime and it was just the transition of coming back here was so radical that it took you a while to adjust. I'm thinking of someone I know that didn't speak until she was 13. And then when she started speaking, she was slow to start, and now she's one of the best yoga teachers, and her words are so well chosen, and I love listening to her talk. So don't get confused if you were so quiet when you were young, and then as you got older, you started talking, because it just means you were receptive. Okay, I'm loving your wisdom and mission, Deb. Thank you, said Lisa. I'm from Aruba. Seeing the yoga girl, you're fabulous. My daughter is so shy and absolutely dislikes being touched. Now, if that's the case, that means they're so sensitive. Then being touched doesn't mean going in and cuddling them. It means sitting next to them and softly and gently touching them with just your hand touching their back. When a shy person describes to you, go away, it's because you're coming on too strong. If you go and you go for the hug, they're not that way. They're tender, they're sensitive, they're subtle. The word for shy people is they're subtle. Now, there's a difference between being contracted and shut down and not interested, and being sensitive and responsive and feeling a lot. Those are two different characters. So what I want to say to you is shy people, I love them. I'm reading your notes. Shy people are people that don't have an ego appetite. Some people like ask yourself this right now. It's a great question. How hungry is your ego to be seen, understood, heard, visually acknowledged, included, supported? Like, how much does your ego need? From a 0 to 10 scale, if 0 was nothing, you were full, and 10 was you're starving, where are you at with your soul's appetite for neediness? That would be more your ego, not your soul. If your ego is operating with not much appetite, you're lower on the scale. That means that your soul is being filled. And here's the gift I want to give to all of you. The way we fill up our soul is by ourselves. We rely on relationships. We rely on the dog. We rely on our partner. We rely on our mom. Like, tell me, I'm special. And yes, we have to have that. It's impossible to live this life without the sharing. Someone told me the story of hell was where all this food was on a table and everybody was sitting there with their hands tied and they couldn't eat it. But in heaven, all this food was on a table and then everyone was sitting there with spoons that just reached to the other person's mouth, so they could only feed each other. So heaven is you can help the other person. That's really the art of this life. But in hell, you run all by yourself, independent, singular. You're not asking for help. You're feeling shy. You're feeling withdrawn. You're feeling excluded. And that creates so much sadness. That must be true. So what I want to say to you shy people is, if you could ask for help, if your kids are nonverbal, then first things first, if your kid's nonverbal, Aries, if they're Aries, Leo, Sag, they're going to be verbal. If they're Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, they're going to be talking and showing up and being loud. If they're Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, or they're Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, that's more, not so much Virgo, but Taurus, Capricorn, that's especially Taurus. Oh my God, they're so shy. That's because they're waiting for you to be able to read their signs, read their indicators, pay attention to them in a way that's gentle and kind and sensitive. And if you can do that, first of all, for your kid, your own inner child, then for your child, then in your relationship, if you were willing to be the listener. But as soon as the ones that listen too much, and I've had this problem in my life where, because I don't think anyone would ever consider me shy because I have the split as a Gemini. I've got one side of me that is so internal and so quiet, and one side of me that's so external and so verbal that I get confused. How many of you out there are extrovert introverts or introverted extroverts? That would be a great question. If it's got two sides going, then the shyness isn't the issue. But if you're exclusively an introvert and you gain energy from being alone and you don't want people to necessarily be with you and you find it quieter and more accessible to hear your own internal dialogue, that is not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you're isolating. It doesn't mean you're lonely. It doesn't mean you're by yourself. It doesn't mean being single is bad. It means that you are enriching your own soul, and those soulful children and or people have less appetite for their egos to go out and more to feed their soul, but they can't complain about it. So if you're an introvert or you're shy or you're someone that would rather be than do, you have to realize that's a gift. I have a good friend I'm thinking of, and she always judges herself like, I'm not like you, Debra. I don't have friends. Well, you have an internal world this lifetime. It's lifetimes. We come in cycles, like everything goes in cycles. So in this lifetime, you might be an extroverted introvert doing both. You might be an extrovert, really good at socializing, really good at people, really loud, tells the truth, is blunt. Or you might be an introvert that's like, too much words, too many words. And if that's the case, what you learn in astrology and why to take the course is you want to know what your natural rhythm is. Sometimes an extrovert or an external personality, this happens a lot, like the fire kid who got squished because their parents were like, can you tone it down? Or the school told them to stop, or their friend or their husband said, you just talk too much. As soon as you say to an extrovert, you talk too much, they become a fake introvert, and then they feel lonely. A real introvert has no problem with saying, I'm sorry, I don't have that many words. But when I do get someone to listen to me, I will share endlessly. So that's the clue. I think what's true is everybody watching this, everybody in Facebook, everybody in Instagram, everybody in Twitter, everybody on the planet longs to be heard. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. All of you, visible or invisible, you're longing to be heard. Now, those of you that need to be heard non-verbally who are shy, you may not use words to be heard. You may use feelings or art. Art is a way to communicate for an introvert or for a shy person. Or cooking is a way to communicate. Or telling people honest truths is very subtle and lost art. How do you tell someone a subtle truth where you say, I miss you, or I need you? Those little truths that are so hard to say that someone who's shy would live with that and they squish themselves and contract, versus someone who's wise enough to say, it's hard for me to say this, but I really love you and I really want to be close to you. I just don't know how to say it out loud. So let's ask you that question. First question was, what's your appetite for your ego? How much do you need? Is your ego being fed in this life? And if not, it won't work, by the way. You have to have a fed ego. It could be by your dog. Then the next question is, how willing are you to speak to the hard things, to say the things that are so hard to say? Yeah, it's so tricky. If we had the ability to give ourselves full permission to be ourselves, and this is what astrology is all about. If we had the ability to uninhibitedly let down the guard, let down the shield, disclose what was really, wouldn't this be the coolest world in the whole world? If, well, you know how everybody goes, how are you? And then the person answers, oh my God, what do they say? They say, fine. Someone told me it meant, ready? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Fine, I'm fine. But what if someone said, how are you? And you said, what's really going on with me is too hard to put into words. What if we actually answered the question? Or, because that would be a water person, too hard to put into words. Or someone said, how are you? And you said, oh my God, I'm just falling in love. Or, oh my God, I'm just breaking up with somebody. Or, oh my God, I just got proposed to. Like, What if we had full permission to be transparent and disclose our true nature with safety because you knew the person in front of you was actually listening? That's the gift of astrology. In astrology, I listen to everyone and all I do is see their chart. So I let them be them on their terms, on their turf, but I understand them. Human nature, I read today on Facebook, somebody wrote, Debra Silverman has this compassion for human nature. I do. I watch people with such interest. Like today, I had to go to the chiropractor, and he's this big, bulky guy. He looks like a football player, like bigger than a football player. And I did get his chart. He was a Sag. And I could tell, like, he does a strange work called Nuka. I don't even know what it means, but it's where they take a picture of your spine and your neck and they adjust everything because I have this ringing in my ear. So I went to this doctor to get it healed. And then I'm looking at him and I'm thinking about his chart, which I don't really know, unfortunately. I wish it was on his forehead tattooed so I could see everything. And I'm thinking to myself, he says to me, is there anything else you want to ask? Well, his technology is not really healing what I came in with, but I don't have the nerve to say to him, I've paid you a lot of money. It's not working yet. I just say, oh, it's really good. And I do notice in and out and, it gets better and gets worse. And I'm not really attributing it to his practice, but I don't have the nerve to say, this isn't working. I paid you a lot of money. I really want to know what the timeline is. Was there a guarantee on this or can we talk about it? But I don't say anything because in appropriate lands of our society, we only speak to what will keep us all content. And if you're shy, oh my God, you definitely don't want to rock the boat. So you're not going to disclose what's really going on. And we be appropriate together. We pretend, we do what's right. And it's a beautiful thing because we keep our society calm and gentle. But some part of me always wants to say to someone, tell me what's really going on. And that's what astrology and our school is all about. In the school, for especially in level 1, you get to disclose to someone what's really going on because you get the language to say, oh my God, I'm not verbal. I found out why I'm shy. I have so much water in my chart and now I don't feel bad about it. And then all of a sudden it gets animated because you're no longer pretending. I think half the problem with us not being energized or feeling tired or being lethargic or not wanting to exercise is we're just not being ourselves. I was watching Misty, my favorite Misty. She is one of our cheerleaders, the head of the school, the mistress of the school. And she has this Grand Trine and fire in her chart, we came to find out, which makes her super physical. But there's phases of her life where she doesn't want to work out. But then when she does, her energy comes back and it's a very different experience. So let's say you found out in your chart that you had lots of water and water suggests you don't want to talk and you're more internal or emotional or vulnerable. But it's been years and years and years since you uncovered that. It showed up as shyness as a child, but as an adult, it wasn't interesting for you to cultivate the sensitivity. So you just walked right over it and became a great business person or became a great teacher or a great mom or something. It's because you left behind. This is what happened with Misty. If you're shy and you're wondering why, there's an indicator that you're filled with water. And if you're filled with water, it means you're sensitive. And if you're sensitive, that means that you feel. And if you feel, it tends to go beyond words. Feelings don't often land in the air of people. So it becomes this disconnect, which is what shyness is. Feeling a lot, but having no words to bridge it. But they can do it through their art. They can do it through their food. They can do it through making love. They can do it through yoga. There's all these other ways to express those nonverbal feelings that tend to look like shyness. When painting is a great way to express feelings. Singing is a great way to dancing. Get it? So in astrology, you discover what's your personality type and how do you allow your nature, your own authentic self to express itself? Like, look at me. I am an air sign. And what am I built for? You bet. I can talk. Let's see here. Do we have any other questions? I love that, Kristen. I think I would make people feel very awkward if I told them how I really am. Here's Andrea. We do what's normal and comfortable for ourselves and the ones we interact with. Yeah, normal, a setting on the dryer. I'm not good at normal. I don't do normal very well. My uniqueness is why, as an astrologer, I've become unique. I've become successful is because I am so much myself. And who I am is, as Carrie will tell you in my team, I'm a little nuts. In Yiddish, the word is mashugana. I'm a little crazy. But instead of trying to cloak that, which is what I try to do and be normal and be together and don't disclose any of those personal secrets, the conflict of oppressing or contracting your natural rhythm, which is what we do, Kristen, that's what we do. We don't tell people, but you can journal it and you can find a best friend and you can find a good therapist and you can find a good, dog that you can just say, you know what I'm really feeling? I'm lonely or I'm excited or I feel so much. Today I woke up and I felt so excited, or today I woke up and I felt so depressed. If we could disclose, the shy people, if they could unearth the secret and dispel the feeling of being awkward, which is really what we all suffer from. Malika, you're my favorite unique person. I think part of my gift has been that my parents were so eccentric that we didn't get normal. I never even understood it. It was not role modeled for me. Great question, Figgy. How do you deal with others who find you a little overwhelming? That's such a good question. So when I first found people rejecting me, which is what's happened throughout my life, they first like me and then they reject me because my energy level is pretty constant and it's annoying to people. I got my feelings hurt. And especially in a group, to your point, Kristen, especially in a group, because somebody always didn't like me. I was too shiny. I was too bright. I was too talkative. I was too energetic. It was something was too much. I was too something. And it would really affect me. But then when you reach in your 100,000-year-old aging process, it becomes very obvious that it's not necessary for me to respond to those people. Now, does it affect me still? Yes. But you know what I've done? I've said, you know what? You don't need to play with me. Like, this is unnecessary. We don't need to be in the same space. So I'll fire someone. I'll let them go. I'll say clearly who I am. And my constant texting and my constant communicating is annoying. That's what it's like to be a Gemini. But for people like Carrie, like how many Geminis, Carrie, do we have on our team? People like Carrie, people like Chris, people like Samantha was on our team. Those little energized bunnies, they don't think it's unnatural. They feel comforted by my role modeling. So when I bump into someone who doesn't like me, which happens periodically, and this is true for all of you, you find your people that really get you. This is the answer to a shy person. You find your people. It could be a dog. Do I compromise? Good question, Figgy. I do. There's times where I don't know that it's a compromise. I think it's a choice where I just won't talk at all. I don't tell them what I do. I don't tell them about astrology. I don't tell them about my passion. I don't tell them. I just listen. That's what I'm trying to say. The neutral position of stillness, of calm, of listening, of being the healer, which is what you all are, or you wouldn't be watching this Facebook Live, is the neutral position is to simply, as a healer, is to just be quiet. Don't make the small talk, or just go with the conversation until you can say, you know what, I have to go. It's so funny because there's a person that is close in my circle right now who talks a lot. And as my friend would say, they talk all night, they talk about nothing. So I don't know what to do with that. And so I just make myself busy. You are allowed at all cost to be yourself with kindness and respect for the other person who's being themselves, but you don't have to hang out. And you don't have to overdo the need to compromise or accommodate. Yes, Rita, this group is my people. I found how to use my words wisely and it really works well, said Debra. I judge people that don't like you. That's funny, Claire. Yeah, I judge them too. And that's honest. And it's really important to be able to say out loud, I'm judging you. As soon as you can own your judgment of them, and here's the bottom line before we finish. There's a distinction between a judgment and a perception. So the perception is the toast is burnt. That's a hard fact. The judgment is, you idiot, you burnt the toast. Or the perception is this person doesn't like me. The judgment is I don't like you either. Like they don't like me. They don't like me. If we could relinquish the attachment to assuming our position, this is what astrology teaches us. My position is not the only one. There's 12 flavors, and the quiet, shy person doesn't like the one that talks, and the one that talks doesn't know what to do with the quiet, shy one. Welcome to planet Earth. We come in 12 tribes. And your job as a attentive listener to me and or anyone teaching you astrology is to ask this question: why are they here? What was God thinking when they made that person? Write that down. What was God thinking when they made that person? That takes it out of the personal into the observer, where you look from a distance. And that's what my book, The Missing Element, is about. If any of you haven't read The Missing Element, it's going to give you the gift of stepping back. Say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. Oh, that's so good, Joan. Say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. It's only hard, Figgy, if you're surrounded by fire signs, if you don't know how to say, excuse me, I want to turn to talk. I love saying to someone who goes on and on, excuse me, I was talking. I had to learn to do that. I'm a Taurus and definitely experience a more grounded, steady energy in my personality, but am drawn and attracted to people like you. It's inspiring and maintains my attention. That was Abby. Elizabeth, almost no air or fire in my chart. I'm all about quiet, dark cuddles. I love helping people non-verbally. Oh my God, Elizabeth. So you guys just made my whole point. God may have been having a bad day. What was God thinking when she made you? She wanted the experience somehow or other. Those people that are really hard to handle, they have a story. They have a past life. They have a karma. They have families that hurt them. They have a broken heart. Someone somewhere broke their heart. Someone somewhere was disloyal. So don't get insulted. I'm obsessed with astrology and I'm a counselor, and you make me feel normal. I'm going to gift myself your book, long overdue. The Missing Element. I'm so bad at small talk, but love talking about bigger picture that I notice I surround myself with friends who love to talk. Then I can warm up and jump in when it gets good. Naomi, how smart is that? See, the thing I want you to finish with, that we got 3 minutes here. Listen to me. Reduce the judgment by being perceptive. You can't stop perceiving. So I perceive these people over here seem to really love talking about things I'm not interested in. That's different than, I can't stand those people. They talk about things I don't understand. No, I just see them as people that talk about something I don't understand. Cap, Sun, Scorpio, Moon. Well, Kristen, it's because your Libra is accommodating and therefore you're shy. Scorpio and Capricorn are about as shy as you can get, unless they're working. All right, you guys. Well, that was the talk of the day. Why shyness is a beautiful gift brought to you by your soul, especially as a child. Why being receptive and yielded and open-hearted is how we get ourselves back to peace. And how all of you are healers. There's not one person listening to this today that didn't come in and promise to contribute to the human species. You wouldn't be in a body. You wouldn't have done this incarnation. You wouldn't have flown in from some far off place to take on a body if you weren't really interested in making sure you could contribute to the species and the evolution. Everyone is here. But we get so myopic and so caught by our ego and our story and our drama, we forget the bigger picture, which is that every single soul that signed up for a body, that was given the gift of a body, came in with the intention of evolution. That's the underlying truth about everybody. So, Carrie, is there anything you want to say before we sign off our Facebook Live?
Just thank you to everybody for commenting. We had a really active comment section today, so that was fun. And I put the link to the Applied Astrology waitlist in the comments. So if you're interested in learning more, make sure you put your name there and we'll tell you as soon as the school opens again.
Which will be, the class begins in September. And when does the card open?
Mid to late August, but the best way for people to hear is to put their name on that link.
And how do they get the book?
On Amazon, or it's on the website, debrasilvermanastrology.com.
So if you want to buy a book and have me sign it and send you a chart, you just go to my website And then there's a book that we mail directly to you. If you want to go to Amazon and get it tomorrow, you just go to Prime on Amazon and they'll sell it to you. The Missing Element, the class is Applied Astrology. It starts in September. The cart will open in August. And thank you all so much for being here. That was my pleasure. I love to teach, and I love that you were all here. I'm sending you lots of blessings. Happy July 4th. It's the day to be independent. So go have a party with somebody or something or somebody or something.